Mhm.
All right, welcome back to
All
Harrowing
right.
Podcast, and the Intrepid Editor Press is with us for a discussion of the latest drop of the Longwave Home. Forget it, Jake?
Yeah.
Is that what it was called?
Yeah, it's called Forget It, Jake. It's Free River.
It's Free River, and it's
Yeah.
about
It
resilience, did you say?
it's about adaptability.
Adapt.
What do you do when you pay the bills, you go to the job every day, you pay rent every month, you're a good tenant, you're in a relationship, you're working with other people, and then something beyond your control happens. The ground shifts, the job goes away, the rent goes up, the things get more expensive beyond your budget. And how do you adapt to that? How do you pivot? Because you can't avoid it, right? You have to kind of just go right through it.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's what that episode looks at, is how does we as humans adapt?
so to give a little background, The Long Wave Home is a podcast that is coming out on a monthly basis to
Mhm.
community radio stations around the country, right?
Well, right now, mostly around Northern California, but yeah, we've got a contact in Illinois working on it, and
Yeah.
somebody out there on the East Coast, and it's community radio, so it's not going to be on the top 40. It's not going to be on those kind of things. It's kind of that level just below public radio, like NPR kind of level stuff. It's the smaller stations, you
Yeah.
know.
It's like my friend Holly, she does KSKQ morning
Hmm.
shows on Mondays and Fridays, and
Hmm.
working at that station for a long time down in the Rogue Valley of Oregon, a relatively low area. But now with Radio Garden and internet radio, people
Hmm.
can get any
All
station
over.
there. So
Yeah.
the long
Yeah,
way
and
also out on
that's
Spotify and Acast, right? Or
not Spotify,
not
definitely not
Spotify,
Spotify, but Apple Music
Apple
or
Music
Apple Podcast. Yeah,
podcasts. Yeah.
I figured why not? They gave the name to the whole format. That's why we call them podcasts, because you can only get them on an iPod. It
So
was a way to,
a
you know.
brief recap of the first two episodes to sort of bring us up to speed and then launch us into
Okay. January, the first episode was called Transmissions, and it was about making connections, how we move through life,
yeah.
connecting to other people, how important it is, how it changes us, how we've we've changed as we're connecting, the way we connect with people. So it looked at that. The second episode in February um, was called A Kerfuffle, a Kite, or no, A Kerfuffle, a Kindness, and a Kite, and that one is about integrity. um how do we stay right with ourselves, with the world, the what do we do when nobody is looking kind of moments, and things like that. And why do we do things like that? Is it because it's the right thing, or it's because it makes us look good? So that's kind of what that episode is about. um this episode, like I said, is about adaptability, and how do we move through life when life is chaos, and things change all the time. I mean, the only thing that's constant is change, right? So how do we adapt to that? um
Yeah. So in that episode, you've talked a little bit about some guy named Jake, I take it, in order to
yeah, he's
think
Jake is a
the
he's a
content.
young man in Free River, and
Mhm.
the line itself is actually an homage to a Roman Polanski film called Chinatown. It's the last line in Chinatown, where the guy turns to Jack Nicholson. He says, who plays a character named Jake, "Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown." And
Uh,
that's the
Jake,
Fade to Black, right?
got it.
So but that's kind of the idea too. It's a guy and a girl in a truck, and the line comes up when they have this realization, a subtle one, not an explosive one, but that they want different things out of the relationship, or where they're going in their life. They're both young. He's 20, she's 18, you know, and she thinks they're going to run off to Chicago, and he's like, "No, I'm staying here in Free River." And they don't, there's nothing explosive. It's just kind of like sometimes you adapt with just a shrug. That's life. That's the way it goes, and that's where the title comes from. So,
Yeah, well, there's a whole lot of sort of black swan events that happen in our lives, I think, that you cannot
sure.
prepare for, and
Mhm.
even if you are prepared for them, you're probably not prepared for how much they're gonna transform you. I had a friend that just last week get diagnosed with colon cancer, quite young.
Mm.
They caught it. I'm hoping they caught it early enough. I don't know anything about staging or anything, and I don't guess you
Mhm.
don't know initially when things come up. But anymore, I think that, our healthcare system, sickness care system
Mhm.
is, daunting, to say the
Mhm.
least. I know you struggle with some things, and,
Mhm.
adapting to new homes too, for that matter. In your case, have you found the right place yet?
We're kind of circling one.
Okay.
In fact, this afternoon I may be going to look at it. I'm waiting to hear from the realtor. Um, we've been having a lot of trouble finding the right place, and I'm very much the kind of person who I don't like to move. I want to buy a place. This is my forever home. You're going to carry me out in a pine box or some kind of shit like
Okay, well,
that. Actually, put me in a mushroom bag and bury me out in the back 40.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we haven't found the right place. I'm having trouble with the overinflation of the real estate market.
Oh,
You know, looking at places that are $400,000 that are essentially a tear down, or there's so much rehab, it's another 100,000 to it just not finding the right one. So, but at the same time, we need to be out of this place no later than June 1st, and we're got 2 months left basically at this point. So we decided to pivot, and we're not gonna. I'm gonna have to just deal with the fact that this isn't going to be my forever home, but it's 60% there. This, the actual home itself, it's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,800 square feet. So not tiny, but not huge. Like this place is over 3,000 square feet. It's way too big, but so something, it is a smaller place, but the property is really small, and it's in a community kind of thing. And that's not my style at all. I won't be able to build a studio there. There's not enough space on the land or in the house.
mm,
So I'm gonna have to adapt and find I'll rent a little place just up the road, so that I can build the studio there,
I
you
see.
know. Which in a way I kinda look forward to. It's like, "Okay, I'm going off to work." It's like I'm not working at home anymore, and I've been working at home almost 20 years, so it's kind of a little excitement to it, for me, but, um, it will kind of hinder. I'll have to adapt because I'm an artist. Sometimes I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with an idea, and I want to sit in my stuff and start working on it, whether it's music or recording or writing and
Yeah,
I like to be in my environment. So it, I'm going to have to kind of adapt somehow to that because that's going to still happen. And I'm not going to put on my pants and drive up the road to wherever I've got my studio. By then, I'll forget what the hell it was that got me up in the
you're
first place. I mean, at my vintage, my memory isn't what it used to be.
yeah.
But
Beginning to find that out myself, I think.
y
I'm trying
yeah,
to learn a lot of new things all of a sudden.
yeah.
Oh, I've never done this kind of work before that I just, started the last couple of days. So, adaptability, it's like I'm being tested on my ability to adapt and conform and meet, standards, and
Mhm,
pretty exciting, but at the same time,
mhm.
well, it's a challenge, more challenging than I thought it was gonna be.
Sure, there's a challenge, there's a certain amount of, I don't wanna say fear, but, you're kind of tenuous. Am I gonna be able to do this? Is that guy gonna be an asshole? How do I deal with,
That's when I see
the person,
yeah, the ethos of the whole group that owns these places, many
Uh-huh,
places, starting in Manhattan and moving out from there.
mhm,
Their ethos is about employees first and that the team works well together and they complement each other and they have your back,
mhm,
as
yeah,
you're underway, which is not the usual,
right,
scenario
right,
when entering into a new workplace. Usually the new guy has to really watch his back and not step on any toes and learn the political,
mhm.
machinations. It doesn't seem to be a lot of that right now.
That's
So
good,
you got different
that's good.
qualities, but they
Right.
also uh, had bought into the overall vision of the owner, Danny Myers,
Mhm.
this thing called Setting the Table. And he's been doing restaurants since apparently the 80s in New
Mm.
York, starting with Gramercy Tavern. So let's get back to the long wave home, though. Let's get back
Sure.
to adaptability and some of the other areas you cover in that because it's a long broadcast, an hour and
Yeah.
54 minutes, I think it was, right?
Yeah. Well, this episode, yeah, I think it's hour 23, 24 minutes. The episode before though was 41 minutes. The episode before that was just over an hour. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's episode 0, which was like our pilot one, which
Okay.
right now it's still available. It's going to disappear sometime in the next month or two. But that one clocked in at 89 minutes. So it was a long one. But anyway, so but like I said, I don't that one is totally different than the format of the show. It was our experiment, see if it flies, see if we can do it. And something I had been planning for many years, that particular episode, that, what I wrote.
The
I was
first one.
busy living it. Yeah, the very this episode
Okay.
0.
Talk about that. Flesh it
Well,
out a bit more.
yeah, it's they're on Apple right now, but it's called When I'm 64. It came out on December 7th, 2025, which in fact was my 64th birthday. And it basically, I tell the story of from birth until 64. And it touches on adaptability. It touches on communication and connection. It touches on integrity. It touches on a lot of the subjects of what the show is about. It's sort of where the seeds for the show came from through life, through living. The show itself is 42 different episodes that look at um, humanity issues, things like integrity, kindness, love. The next episode is about creativity, the importance of creativity. There's play and joy. There's mercy. I mean, each episode is about something that makes humans human. You know, we don't get too political. I mean, like this last episode, there's a little reference to ice in there. The episode before, there was some reference to integrity because, of course, there's a bit of a lack of that in the current administration. You know,
I'm overwhelmed, I'm afraid. I
yeah, yeah, I am too.
think that is the point, if there is one, is to just numb you out.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's wearing you down, getting used to the shit show so it doesn't shock you so much. You know, um, they right now we're still reporting on kids that are getting measles and dying from measles, but eventually it'll just be background noise. We won't see those reports anymore. It's already happening, with the minutia of, oh, here's another distraction. Oh, let's go to war. Let's invade this country. Let's, tear down this building. Let's put my name all over this place. It's like, and nothing is done. Prices go up, things become less secure, people are more endangered. And it's like the climate. I mean, he kills the EV program, and then gas, oil shoots up to, what is it now, 120 a barrel, something like, or heading towards 120 a barrel now.
Probably. I mean, I was paying much more than I wanted to, and I just ran down Friday to visit my mother for her monthly lunch with mom.
Hmm.
She's
Hmm.
about to turn 87 on the Wednesday,
Hmm.
and
Happy birthday, mom.
it's a long stretch
Yeah, it is.
and burns about a tank of gas to do it. But putting it back in, I was shocked. It's over $1 a gallon more
Hmm.
already, and you know, I'm flummoxed. I can't really formulate words to
Yeah.
begin to describe my kind of feelings of consternation about this. And that's one reason it's good to have a job that basically runs me ragged because I don't have time to think about anything
Hmm.
except what's right in front of me and customer care.
Hmm.
So, and boy, it's just amazing how busy it was this weekend. But I think it's going to be a little less hectic in the week. That's going to be a different kettle of fish. We'll see.
Mhm.
Getting back to adaptability, though, I mean, we have to adapt because we do lose jobs and we do have transformations as we go along. Um, and your podcast is coming along that you're planning on relocating. What else is going on?
Um, Dealing with we were just talking about health and things like that, you know.
Yes.
Um, Recently had some I had a biopsy of my kidneys and stuff. About, I don't know, 9 years ago, I guess now, I was diagnosed with cutaneous lupus, which is lupus in the skin. But then they detected the systemic lupus, and then there was indication that both there was central nervous system and kidney involvement, but they weren't active, so we haven't had to deal with them. Just the mainly just the cutaneous and a little bit of systemic, and I've been doing great. But now the kidneys, there's flare up in the kidneys. So I'm on a new medication that I need to get used to. It has all kinds of side effects. It's terrible. I don't like taking meds, you know. It's an immune suppressant kind of medication. So,
Azathioprine
um,
is what my wife is on for hers.
part, pardon me?
Azathioprine is what my wife takes.
Okay.
You heard of azathioprine?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's come up in conversations. I
Pronounced
haven't had to,
autoimmune hepatitis.
right.
She likes to say she's taking self-loathing to the cellular level. You're nice.
There you go. That's a great phrase.
You're welcome to it.
Thank you. But,
But,
so,
it's hard.
I have to, it's an adjustment. It's just, um, it's not like I didn't know it. When I was first diagnosed, they said it looks like you could get it in your kidneys. And I was like, okay, well, I don't now. Life goes on, and I protected my kidneys. I've been really good about, I eat really well. I don't drink. You know, occasionally I'll have a cigarette, but I'm not really a smoker.
Mm.
I switched from, I use cannabis to treat the inflammation and pain and stuff, but I stopped. We grow it ourselves, but I stopped using like a bowl, and have gone to a vape,
Oh,
because
okay.
again, it's a dry herb vaporizer, so
Hmm.
doing things to protect myself is essential, a plant-based diet now, I just got to stay away from the meat, I still kind of one day a week or one day every 10 days I'll have, because I love red meat in particular,
Oh,
so
really?
oh yeah, yeah. I just, as much as I really enjoy eating plant-based foods and no meat and stuff like that, something about it, I don't know. I think it's a primal thing, It's,
Maybe.
yeah, my caveman instinct. I don't know. Give me that. I don't know. Give me that meat. It's something.
Well, that's
You
how
know.
Stanley, had the whole carnivore diet. That's one of the reasons they called him Bear, right?
Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
making all those guys eat nothing but meat, and they
Right.
come together.
And most of them lived a pretty long life or are still alive. It's like,
Yeah,
it
Mickey and Billy still going.
yeah, yeah,
I think that's kind of amusing that the drummers are the ones who outlived everybody else.
right.
Wear and tear
Yeah,
on the body, you'd think, but no,
yeah,
maybe it's
it, exactly. And Kreutzmann, I mean, I thought he was a goner for. He got kind of sick, and I was like, oh, Bill, but
yeah, it's
no,
heart
he had to.
cardiac.
Right, right.
You had to slow it
But
down.
dude, pull through. I mean, amazing.
I
It's
mean,
great. It's wonderful.
long life is wonderful in a lot of ways, and I don't really want to depart mine anytime soon. I do see the fact that we are very temporary as being something that we
Hmm.
have a really hard time getting our heads around.
Hmm.
I think we probably talked about the denial of death before, right? Which is Ernest
Hmm.
Beer's book from the 1970s. That's
Hmm.
a good book, and it really
Hmm.
does, uh, put me in a mindset where I realize everything I'm doing is an immortality project of sorts.
Hmm.
Try to leave a mark and make the world a better place as well. That's one of the things about the place I'm working called Daily Provisions that they want to leave your campsite better than where you found it.
Hmm.
I want to do that generally in my whole life. I've got a long ways to go, actually, but it living in about 1,100 square feet here in DC, where I plan to have them take me out feet
Mhm.
first. So
Mhm.
I can probably manage to get it under control before I'm ready to hit the make my final exit. Although you never know, and that's
Mhm.
things that also is sort of with me most of the time. I think about it a lot. I
Mhm.
spend the day thinking in terms of this is a temp job, and I get an opportunity to do this. I don't have to do this. I get to.
Mhm.
And I think if we could adopt that, we can be more adaptable to what life throws at us.
Mhm.
The things it's been throwing at us here lately, I can't imagine that everyone who's listening, as well as everyone who will listen, is not in some ways overwhelmed. What do we have to offer them? You got anything
Mhm.
off the top?
I don't know. I contemplated. I see what you're saying about everything I'm doing is a lot is like a legacy project. It's something that is going to live beyond me. Is going to, you know,
The ripple
um,
effects of it. Yeah.
yeah. But I don't really think about it so much in terms of it's me or anything like that. It's more like I want to impart something I've learned, and I almost it's almost a lot for my kids or for the people I know, or their kids or, you
Right.
know, because we can only really affect what's right around us. So if my kids grow up kind and considerate and ambitious and, creative, positive, that's the best thing I can do to help change the world. Because then hopefully it becomes generational. That's the way they raise their kids. That's the way that, and it, that's all I have really control about. I'm not John Lennon or, I'm not, some Bertrand Russell who can leave stuff. And who knows, maybe I will be, maybe
Maybe you will
something I wrote,
pick
I'm
up.
dead and I'll be one of those dead writer artist kind of people and they discover me when I'm gone. And that's fine. I don't care. I'm dead, you know. Eh, As long as my kids get whatever money comes from it, I'm fine with it. As long as it doesn't go up to the Epstein class up there, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I feel that I don't really want my name attached to it necessarily, but it's nice to know that something I did made a difference for somebody else, and that
Mhm,
ripple effect is carrying on. And it doesn't
mhm,
have the less of my name attached to it, the better I like it. Actually,
mhm,
it's something about the action of anonymity.
mhm,
I myself am nothing, is the
mhm,
old phrase from the Bible. And if I'm
mhm,
nothing and no one and nobody,
mhm,
I can just be that imp that I feel that I want to be, who just plays through creation, and
mhm,
nothing's going to be very serious. You know?
mhm,
So it's hard to live that. It's hard to live that ethos of being in the state of nothingness, of being in the state of realizing I'm just an animal carrying around this little spirit, this little divine light inside.
mhm,
So doing a lot of reading on Gnosticism recently, actually, along those lines of that we are actually just shards of that divine light, and will be reintegrated into it when all this is said and done.
mhm.
Talking to a friend named Sophie. I don't know if you may have managed to catch my little podcast with Sophie Burnham.
Yeah, I saw that. I haven't actually. I wanted to go back and rewatch it. I did want to see it, but
It was a lot of fun in a way because she's, you know, good writer, I'd say, of
Mhm,
things about angels in particular, and she believes in
mhm,
angels. I don't know.
mhm,
She's had this experience where her brother came to her from the other side. He was appearing to everybody else in her family, but not her, and she was wondering
mhm,
why. And he showed up and said, "It's just fantastic! You can't believe it. It's so great to be
mhm,
disincarnate."
mhm.
I don't know. It was interesting. I
Yeah.
and I like the idea that we'll be remerging with the field of love, where everything is love.
Mhm,
Is and all of this suffering and trauma and drama that we
mhm,
get ourselves into in the macrocosm as well as the microcosm,
mhm,
we can relax a bit about it. We don't have to
mhm,
be so keyed up about it. We can relax and take it easy, as they say. And maybe we can actually get to the point where we can embrace that "don't worry, be happy" thing.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Hmm.
What's your take? Push
I
back. Give me free.
you know, I do think the same kind of thing. That's what the dauber is. That's that little part inside of us,
Yeah.
right? And it's the kind of thing that I, we inhabit these carbon-based plasma unit, monkey meat suits that we walk around on this rock
Right.
that's going like this as it goes around an unstable burning mass of gas,
Yeah.
and it keeps tilting, it's like that in itself is a miracle to me,
Yeah.
is a miracle. Why, um,
Yeah.
so I don't really worry too much about the workings of humans, man's in a way, because it's small. It's irrelevant to the big thing of things, you know. Um, and I'm in this meat suit right now on the planet right now, and I don't know if I'm going to come back like reincarnate, but goddamn, I feel like I've been here before too. You know, you do a lot of the colonial stuff. I'm sure you've had that feeling of connecting to that era. And it's very similar to the way I mean, why do you think I live just down the road from Donner Peak? That's a connection. I remember something like that in a previous, I think.
Right.
Maybe I'm just I have, but it's not like I even knew the history of it when I first went there. I was a child and we went camping and I just had this feeling I've been here before. You know, I didn't know that Donner Lake meant anything, but that's where we were camping.
That
I
golf.
didn't know that the campsite was where the death camp was. I didn't know anything about the death camp or the story, but I felt it.
And for people
Eh,
who don't know, the
uh,
Donner
uh,
Pass was where the Donner Party ended up cannibalizing, getting snowed in and having to cannibal.
right, and having to, just to survive, had to eat those who went before them. I mean, they caught a little bit of rabbit, but there's not a lot of wildlife up that high at 7,000 feet. It's there was a stream, there weren't many fish. Um, and that year, the snow, they have a statue there that goes up, probably it's like three pioneers standing, and it's maybe 40 feet tall, and they stand on a pedestal that is as high as the snow was that year, and it was like 24 feet. It's like, to give you perspective of, that's why they were snowed in, that's why they couldn't go on, you know? And they were even there because somebody lied to them and they made a mistake of believing him. "Oh, this is a shortcut to California. You don't have to go all the way up around it into Oregon. Instead of cut through here." And it was brutal. I mean, you know, so
Yeah,
but I didn't know. I mean, I was 7 years old. I don't know all that history. I don't know anything about it. I just know that my uncles took me camping and I had a great time, but I felt this is where I belong, or this is where I've been. This is where, feeling. And here I am at 64 and I live in the same county that happened in. I've just been down the road from it. I go there all the time now with reverence, with a feeling of,
you're revisiting it. Yeah,
right, right. I
that's
wrote a story about, in my previous life. It's called "In My Previous Life, I Was a Frozen Dinner." And I was one of the people that died at the camp and they ate me. That's how the story ends.
yeah, you got quite a few good books out too that we probably
Yeah.
ought to remind people about. We had Susan I. Weinstein just join us, I noticed, and
Hi, Susan.
back up a little bit and say that we're talking to the Intrepid editor press, Philip Chalmers. He's put out quite a few different books, including Bipolar Reality.
Hmm.
That was a good one. How life goes on, and we're talking
Yeah.
a lot about how life goes on as
Yeah.
things thrown at us, and we need to be adaptable. Because the last episode of the Longwave Home is about adaptability. Forget it, Jake. This is
It's
free.
Free River. Right.
Now, tell me more about Free River. That's actually a real place.
It's
Or
it's It's I borrowed the idea from Garrison Keillor, Lake
Okay,
Wobegon.
Lake Wobegon. Okay.
Right, a fictional place in Minnesota where he's from.
Ah, yeah,
And like Lake Wobegon, Free River is an amalgamation of several different mountain towns in the area that we live in. We have, I mean, the big town here is 12,000 people. That's like the city to us here.
sure.
I mean, if you want to get the actual next city is Sacramento, that's 70 miles from here. So we're kind of removed, and life here is a little slower. It's a little more different. There's a lot more kind of community feeling because we don't have Walmarts. We don't have big box stores. It's like we're lucky that we have that big Safeway, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I have to go to the big Safeway, and it's a half hour drive from where I live. It's not like just, oh, run to the store. It's
Right,
like,
right.
oh, go milk a cow if you want milk. I'm not going to the store.
Wow. That reminds me of the place my folks had in Amherst, Virginia. It was
Uh-huh,
about 11 miles down the mountain to the town of Amherst itself. So
uh-huh.
closest food store or anything practically.
Right, right.
Where else was there were a couple of little service stations, but and they had some stuff. They were
Mhm,
quite quaint. They'd probably been there as like general stores from the 19th century at least. I don't know.
mhm,
But yeah, I feel connected to those places like you were talking
mhm,
to some degree. I don't know that I don't know about my previous incarnations, if I've had any. Um,
mhm.
my sister did a lot of work with Ouija boards, trying to find recipes for the palace kitchens at Colonial William. Trying to contact the original cooks.
Yeah. Did it work?
No, she did have a guardian spirit show up before
Uh,
who had been in love with a previous incarnation of her, supposedly. I don't
mhm,
know. That was just really a creepy summer we spent diving into that stuff, and
right.
some stuff happened that it was hard to explain. I don't know.
Mhm,
Like it's like you said, whether we are embodied in our little meat suits and we are
mhm,
temporary, but
mhm,
I do think that we are products of love. We've come from a side of nothing but love, and we should be returning to that. And the more we can train ourselves to
mhm,
endure our
mhm.
incarnation, I think the less chance we have of having to do all these things again. Actually, that's a
Right.
Bob Dylan line, isn't it? I think that I'm trying to figure out what kind of price you have to pay to keep from going through all these things twice. I think that's something like that. Stuck inside,
Sounds like a Bubba Dylan. Yeah.
stuck inside of Memphis with the stuck inside
Well,
of
yeah, stuck inside of Memphis with the yeah,
Mobile with the
yep,
Memphis Blues.
Memphis Blues again, right.
There's a whole design house that was called Memphis after that tune.
Wow.
Weird. I've
Yeah.
just thought of that, and I think it was the late '70s, somewhere in there, that design school started in.
Hmm.
I have to look that up again, write a little bit about it because that's how I write. This one
Yeah.
leads to the other, and it knocks the little pins down. Boy, I'm tired. I tell you what. Let's talk about the long wave home some more, though. Give me some more of
Hmm.
what you've talked about in this latest hour and 20 some minute podcast.
Well, one of my favorite parts of it is when we turn the microphone out. We go into the community and stop people in the street, or we're at the farmers market, or this time we were up in Truckee on Donner Pass Road, which is like the tourist kind of area of Truckee,
Hmm.
and just talking to people walking down the street about their experiences. And we asked this month the question was, what does that adaptability mean to you? And just wait for the answers is one of my favorite parts of the show because you can actually hear people working out the answer in their answer as they're speaking.
Right.
And I love that because it's so fluid. It
Uh,
was sort of like they were living an example of adaptability. They were just, they're out there having lunch, going shopping, looking at the mountains, going to the lake, or something. And all of a sudden, this guy says, "What does adaptability mean to you?" And they're like, "Oh, okay, I have to adapt and answer," and
So tell me, how do you do that? You just walk up with a microphone and just say, "I'm doing the," how do you get them
W
rolling?
we have in the past. When we're on the street, though, or just stopping people, I find it's actually better to just make, voice memos on the phone, just because microphones are kind of intimidating. They imply performance.
The
These
phone
things,
picks
everybody's got them in their pocket. Everybody knows, it's like talking on speakerphone to somebody, you know? They're they lower their guard a little bit. They're a little more comfortable and speak a little bit better. We did try to do it with microphones, or one time I was at the library and I had my laptop and my microphone set up there, so it's a really good recording, and I got one person to sit down and talk with me. Everybody else was like, "No, not today, thank you." And it's like, because they look and they see this little setup and it's like, "Ah, well," you know, so that's kind of the best way I found is using the phone as the tool to capture that moment, you know.
I see. So how do you do that? Can you got
Um,
a phone on you? You
yeah, I have my phone on me, and I just open up the voice memo app
uh-huh.
and hit record. I turn the phone, so that the microphone, which is at the bottom, is pointing in their direction. Try to keep it about a foot or two away,
Uh-huh.
so that their voice comes out clear and not popping or not muffled. But there's always, like, up in Truckee, it was so windy,
Okay.
so it had to get closer, and some of the people are, well, yeah, a couple people just took the phone from me, and they're like holding it, talking to me as they're, but then you hear the of the wind, and my engineer was, poor guy spent 5 hours editing these
Wow.
voices down, just to get rid of the sound of the wind.
Mhm.
And a couple of them come out a little weird, but because um, we also have to edit it, because a lot of times people, as they're thinking, you hear a lot of ums, ands, things like that. So
Sure.
for both, to keep things moving, we have to kind of cut it down. But also, some people, I don't mean to sound, they don't sound as good when they answer as they do after we edit it. They sound very, like, their whole idea is there. They aren't going, you know what I mean? It's like, that kind of stuff we kind of take out. It's just makes them sound better, more coherent. You get the whole idea, the more coherent idea. So,
Yeah.
oh, we
Interesting.
don't change anything. We don't make people say something they didn't say or anything like that. It's just, um, cleaning up what they said, you
Yeah.
know?
It was
But
interesting, doing one of these things with the everyday junglist, and he was going out onto the Pacific Ocean. He lives down in
mhm,
Tijuana.
mhm.
The the wind was whipping up, something
Oh,
terrible,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
that cleaned it up.
Yeah.
The recording was automatically cleaned up for us.
Mhm.
All wind
Mhm.
noise was removed. So I'm sitting there shouting over the wind, I think.
Yeah.
It looks absurd in the recording because there is no wind.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to remember that in the future. I'd never seen that happen before, but I
Was
know
he just talking on the thing, or was he using, like, I'm using, the AirPod right now?
I'm pretty sure he was on the phone,
Oh,
um,
okay.
just using his, the Substack app on the phone
Okay.
going along. We've done that a few times.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
quite the interesting raconteur too. He's a chemist, or let me get this right. He's a molecular biologist, and he really
Okay.
focuses on phages, which are those little virus-like things that attack bacteria. And apparently, the
Uh-huh.
abundant thing in the world, though they're not really alive. So we
Uh-huh.
have this continuing conversation where we sort of like,
Yeah.
well, they seem to be alive, but they're not really alive because they can't do anything on their own. They have
Uh-huh.
to have the bacteria to reproduce. So
Right.
technically not a life form. But
Mhm.
rocks don't have phages. So
Mhm.
bacteria do have phages. If you have a phage or a virus that attacks you, your life,
Mhm.
I guess.
Mhm.
But anyway, but he's all over the map on all
Mhm.
kinds of stuff. And we ended up, I never know what's going to emerge. Kind of like us, but we'll see what happens. Um, so adaptability, though, what kind of stories did you get that really stood out to you from people since the open mic? Where was the part you like most?
There was one kid who not kid, he's like late 20s,
Ah,
and he talked about one of the questions was there ever anything that was very hard to do that you had to adopt to? And he told a little story about how for a while he was unhoused and how difficult it was to live on the streets. Or they up here, we don't really unhoused people don't really live on the streets so much as campsites or Bureau of Land Management land, where it's kind of not really legal to camp there, but nobody patrols it. It's not part of the county; it's federal land. They don't have federal officers to go to all so it becomes kind of a safe place to kind of camp and stuff like that. It's
hmm,
just not really set up for it. um, but that's what he was doing, is he was living in the forest, homeless. And every once in a while, he'd have to move it along because somebody would discover. And so he had to camp, strike his camp. And he made a point about talking about how it was really important for him. One of the things to adapt is to clean up and leave the place cleaner than he left it, to leave only footprints and take only photos or whatever. He was, and that struck me as being a really interesting answer. That was what was adaptable to him. Not, I don't have a house to have a home in. It was cleaning up the place when they had to move along. I thought that was a very interesting thing. Um, One of the people that we talked to was an older guy, like probably late 80s, 90s, who we asked the question of, is adaptability something that you learn, or is it something you're born with? Which is kind of a trick question. But um, he told a story about his mother always told him that there are people that are worse off than you. Whenever he, you know, felt bad about his situation, hey, somebody's got it worse, and I just thought it was funny that this 90-year-old guy is recollecting his mom who told him that when he was a child, and that was his example of how he learned to be adaptable. That was something that helped him become adaptable, to have compassion for people, to cut them some slack or whatever. I thought that was a really interesting answer. Um, I was the mic was turned on me at one point because we had to adapt in making the thing, and we had a series of questions that were taking in an area that was like a giant atrium, lots of glass and marble floors and plants and waterfalls. You couldn't hear a damn thing anybody said. It was so noisy, and we couldn't take it out. So we were short some questions. We needed about 2 minutes of. So Griffin, my producer engineer, said, "You know about adaptability. Why don't you answer the question?" You know, and I did. And but me being me, I had to. Yeah, I first of all, it wasn't the same because these people, they don't know they're going to answer a question. Me, I wrote the question. I know the answer I'm going to give. I did cite, how something happened, how adaptability for me is a way of life. Every day I'm adapting in different ways and for different reasons. And then the other one was I answered was about is adaptability learned, or is something that comes natural. So, but my answer is I didn't like them because they kind of sounded canned, they kind of sounded too thought out. But maybe they aren't, because I know how it was produced, I know what happened. Maybe when people listen to it they'll find a different answer. But so I was included in this one just because we needed the time. We didn't have enough time to run out and get another interview, or you
ah,
know um, so we try to stick to talking to people in our area, make it very community based
yep.
on our project. The people that perform we have little skits in it. None of them are professional actors. They're all just people who like to ham it up, who like to make silly voices, and they want to be in the radio. Can I be on the radio with you? And it's like, sure, if you can do that voice for about 5 minutes, I'll write a character. um, and that's part of the fun of it too. It's that's part of the point of it. you know. That we have an episode on the importance of playing, like being kids, keeping that kid spark alive at our vintage, you know. I mean, I'm fortunate I've got a 4-year-old grandson who lives with us, so I get to get on the floor and build with magnetic blocks or make a fort with him or do stuff that I used to do when I was a little kid. And I think that's important to maintain through the span of life, to have that little bit of childness in you that. And maybe it's not, maybe it doesn't help you, but it's a hell of a lot of fun to pretend you're 4 or 7 or something. It's
Have you ever read Memories, Dreams, and Reflections by Carl Jung, by any chance?
it's got it rings a bell, and yeah, I probably have. I was in college 40 something years ago.
There's a big part in that where he was just playing with things
Mhm,
and building little villages and things like this out,
mhm,
and and that play was so important to him, and
mhm,
as an older man, you know,
mhm,
even maybe more important than it was, and more significant, and very much like s- the word was significant, right? What else can I say? This was vital
mhm,
to do as
mhm,
part of his individuation because Memories, Dreams, and Reflections was really his spiritual autobiography. It didn't follow
mhm,
really it was the development of him spiritually speaking. It
mhm,
wasn't about, his whole career as a psychiatrist, though that's what he's
mhm.
most famous for. But he in his practice, was using his clientele to help himself develop. And I think Jungian analysts generally do this or
Yeah.
trying to do this. And it's a funny feeling I have about it now in retrospect. I went through a bit of Jungian analyst work, but as a patient,
Hal, in your area of the country, I seem to remember, God, it must have been 85, 86, being in for the Hampton shows, the Grateful Dead playing at Hampton Coliseum, the
right,
spaceship building,
right,
right? There's a museum, or maybe it was just an exhibit at a museum, but it was all about Jungian more philosophy
right.
than his psychiatry stuff. It talked about the anima and animus. It talked about
Yeah,
the way the little triangle thing. How there's subconscious, superconscious, and you know they had all these like displays, and they had actual things that writings and drawings and doodles that he made to explain things. It was fascinating.
that was when you were in the Hampton shows, huh?
Yeah, it was somewhere around there. It was like it was, you know, I think it was we had gotten there a day or so before the shows, and we were killing time.
Well, there's a place
And
down in Virginia Beach that was Edgar Casey's Advanced Research Institute of
right,
it's some
right. Yeah, that actually it might have been that. It might have been an
I could
exhibit at that museum because we were talking that was the same time we were talking about Edgar Casey and like the whole supernatural-ish kind of stuff. The girl that I was touring with was very into the metaphysicals. I mean, used to do the numbers. She taught me how to do the I Ching. She very into astrology, but not just what is your sign. It's like where were you born, what time you were born, and she does
right,
the whole star chart thing.
right.
And you know,
Planets were
um, yeah, and it was. I mean, she was a great partner on the road. Her name was Peggy, so we used to call her Peggy O. So, um, but she was the one who I'm pretty sure it might have been the Edgar Casey Museum, and they had a Carl Jung exhibit thing, kind of connecting the two or something like that.
that would be interesting because I think there's
Yeah.
a connection. I don't know if they ever really worked together or who corresponded. I
Mhm,
have to get back into his correspondence sometime because I knew he corresponded with a number of people. He worked a lot
mhm,
with physicists.
mhm,
What was that? Which one was that? Well, I want to come back to me. It will come back eventually. But the fascinating thing was, getting down to what physical reality is versus what metaphysical reality is. I don't know. I am fascinated by the whole field. I read a lot around in it. There's a lot of esoteric writers. This guy named Mitch Horowitz. Have you run across him at all? Yeah.
Yes.
He
Yes,
does
he's
a lot
real
of
good.
things on these subjects, and he's kind of like
Yeah.
me, a born skeptic.
Mhm.
We're theosophists because it's the only thing our mindset can fit into.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think of myself as an atheist. I think of myself as a Gnostic theist.
Mhm.
I know gods and goddesses exist in our
Mhm.
mind. I'm not sure they
Mhm.
exist elsewhere. I'm not sure my cat has a concept of God,
Mhm.
but maybe. I don't know. The Joseph Campbell connection is with the Grateful Dead too. Is another one.
One of my favorites. Yeah.
And Campbell, of course, very closely related with Jung. He actually did the
Yeah.
translations of a lot
Yeah.
of his works. So, yeah, I'm gonna go back and watch some Joseph Campbell probably later. I've got another call coming too. We're going to get line here with Lee Penman, who's got a new bird, Pico. Rico
Mm.
died. Now he's got Pico, and Pico's DNA
Mm.
back. It's a girl.
Mm.
So that'll be the news we have, and I don't know what we'll get up to. But Lee, I know through connecting through Patty Smith's daughter, Jessie,
Okay.
and we were both followers of hers.
Yeah,
And
there he is. Hi, Lee.
yeah,
I'll
we're
tune into your show.
that was quick. Speak of the devil, and he appears.
Oh,
You
wait a minute.
talk
He's
to
not
Lee.
the devil, is he?
Oh, Pika. Well, that makes sense, right?
Uh-huh.
Pico, if it's not a boy, I take it
Mhm.
Rico was a boy, but now it's Pika. Okay, isn't that a font?
I don't know.
You're
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
It's been good catching up. Um,
Yeah.
what
It
else?
has.
What else is going to be happening in your life in the next month? Do you know? Because we'll get back on here in April again.
Right. Well, we'll be producing the next episode we start next week. I do this week have a lot going on with the Ripple Revolver, which is
Oh,
like a digital magazine. It's a resistance magazine. The publisher is a guy who's Pathos Romaniac, and he's a retired. He was a professor at Berkeley, long retired though. He was kind of not forced out, but he spoke up against the George Bush two's war in Iran and or Iraq, and back then saying WMDs isn't. He wrote some kind of thing, opinion piece, and was sort of politely asked, "Oh, it's time for retirement." So he funds this magazine called the Ripple Revolver. I'm the managing editor. Our company takes care of hosting it and doing the web design, and I contribute articles to it, and work with other writers. It's kind of a compendium of things that some people that actually we're looking at talking to for from Substack to see if we can reprint their articles in the Ripple Revolver. Again, it's kind of localized, but No Kings 3 is coming up next Saturday. So one of the things that we've been doing is we make these little like zines, like old school, like we did back
yeah.
in the 80s on the punk scene, right? Little zines and hand them out. That's how what we do as part of the resistance, and they have little QR codes on it that take you to, whether it's to Indivisible or the Mutual Food Network, things to help people kind of supporting each other. There'll be a QR code that takes them to the Ripple Revolver online. Um, you know, it just it's one of the things that I do as part of the resistance work that we try to do. So
Okay.
that's going to be this week. And then after that, it's more of the same. Hopefully, if I go see that property today or tomorrow, we'll be able to move on it pretty quick. That's where we are right now. We've got everything ready to go. We just have to find the right property. And so, because I don't want to rent a place while we're waiting to find. It's just renting is just ridiculous. Um, I've realized that they don't offer leases anymore. They just offer you a leash. You know, you can stay here this long, but you can't do this, you can't do that, you have to do this, you have to pay that. It's like,
Mm.
eh, you know, please. when it says landlord, you aren't really a lord, you know. You know, that's just an old term. It doesn't have anything to do with you get to dictate how people live, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, so it's just, and it's just more economically a better move, you know. I mean, I'm going to pay less for a mortgage than I am for a lease at this point, you know, looking for what I want. I mean, yeah, I can get a little two-bedroom apartment, no problem, but that's not me. You know, I need to have a little space. I need to be in the country a little, you know. Um, so that's all coming up.
Yeah. And what's the next theme for April? Or do you want to
Creativity,
create
creativity.
yeah,
Yeah,
for the long wave home? And
yeah,
this month's is out yesterday, right? Or was it the
right.
day before?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it no, it dripped out yesterday,
Oh, okay.
and you know, so you can find it on Apple Podcasts. Um, Long Wave Home, episode 3. Forget it, Jake. It's Free River. So that's
There you go.
yeah.
That's the title. And
Mm.
thank you so much for your generosity of spending an hour with me when you've got all these other things going on.
Same thing with you, man. I was concerned, man. He just started this job. He's, you know,
Well,
it's
you
too
did
much pressure
exactly
for
what
Hal,
you know,
you know.
it's all
So
good.
thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I saw that as I was just getting into the house. And
Uh-huh.
no, we're fine. We're gonna find
Uh,
fine. And I am pretty much fine. I'm recharged a bit. I mean, this really helps. Having a
good.
conversation with a friend, whether it's next door, whether you're out in the streets holding a microphone up to him to get more
Mhm.
information for your podcast. I mean,
Mhm.
it's helpful. Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
all need to have conversations with each other to get through the suffering of being incarnate.
Yeah.
It's not for the
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah. Well, living in the material world is never easy, you know.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. I will let you
All
go,
right.
and we'll talk to you again on April
All right.
2nd.
Thank you very much too.
Pleasure,
Bye.
always. See ya.
All right.